We got Jeremy Kennedy back here on the program, although this time he is not a member of the UFC roster. He has signed with Brave CF. Jeremy, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing very well, and this is a little bit of surprising news. You not being with the UFC. I mean, you're 25 years old, and you're not fighting for the UFC anymore. I wanted to sort of go back a few months, though. You know, heading into the Volkanovski fight at UFC 221, there was the last fight on your deal, and I think at that time, you know, I know in your head you're sort of assuming, you know, if you win big, you can kind of go see what happens, and obviously things didn't go your way in that one. Was the idea that you just wanted to test free agency after, or what was sort of the game plan heading into that last fight?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted. There was stuff going on with my management, and it was like we didn't meet with terms. Like I wanted to re-sign before that last fight, and there was some communication and lying to and whatnot, and that's why I'm not represented by the management that I was, and it was a big mistake. You know, a lesson learned. I went into that fight, win or lose. I mean, it was it was a risk, but it was a risk I didn't even want to take. Like I'm not much of a guy. I like the certainty, you know, and I ended up making less, you know, for that fight because it was the last fight on my contract rather than re-signing at what was offered or whatever. But yeah, I mean, lesson learned. It the fight itself, that fight, I got to try to wipe it clean, and that's why it's kind of prompting this right away, getting back into it as soon as I can because I can't sit on the fence with that being the last performance. You know, it's even if you watch my other fights, that wasn't me. You know, there's no excuses, but it just I got a lot more to prove, and that I kind of just I didn't show up, I didn't fight, so it's annoying, and I want to try to get in there and erase that off my. You're only as good as your last fight in the sport right now, so I mean, whatever I can do to get in there and finish somebody and do it dominantly and move on from that.
Well, there's a lot of things to unpack from that. I know talking to you and talking to some other people about just your performance in that fight, you said it was sort of a mental thing. You went in there, you just didn't feel yourself. I imagine you'd never felt like that before in a fight, just with the way things sort of turned out.
Yeah, never. It was super weird. I guess I was on like vacation already. You know, I'm like laying on the beach at the Hyatt in Australia, and all week I got there a little earlier, and yeah, just the last thing on my mind was the fight, all the way up until the fight, and I had already had booked to stay there for like a week afterwards, and it was just a big amateur move by me by going out there and treating it like, hey, I'm going to Australia instead of like, no, I'm going there to fight. You know, if I was fighting in wherever in the States, it wouldn't really have that same like vacation feel to it, and it showed. You know, I I just didn't do anything. You know, he wasn't like out grappling me and passing my guard and smashing me from mount and all that. You know, he was getting half guard. I was holding half guard, and that's it. I wasn't really fighting to get up, which is not me at all. Like it's a crappy fight to watch. When I rewatched it, I'm like, oh, like I just rolled over for him is all it was, and it's something. You know, it's been 5 6 months now, and I'm over it. I'm over it. I can talk about it with a smile on my face now still. And one fight, 25 years old. I got lots left in me, and I just feel bad for the next guy. Is all it is.
Well, that's just it, right? You know, it's always the next performance that's going to sort of define your career because, you know,
Yeah.
taking a loss like that, I mean, a lot of people could have quit earlier on. I mean, there's lots of, sort of positives you can take out of that fight. So after that fight's over, you know you're a free agent at this point. When did you sort of start to feel that things were starting to go sour with the UFC in terms of trying to re-sign with them? And, it didn't seem like it was going to be a reality.
Yeah, well, right away, like I said, by the time I got home, I was like, I need to fight again. You know, I didn't take. A lot of people thought I took a lot of damage, but there were a lot of little rabbit punches. That's why it wasn't as big. Like I didn't have cuts all over my face or anything like that. It was just more a broken ego, you know. So as soon as I flew home, I was like, no broken bones, no torn muscles, nothing. I was back training, and I just emailed Sean. I was like, let's go. Like I need something as soon as possible. And then that's when it was started coming out of like we're waiting to re-sign guys, and we're waiting a few months because we have all these avenues of the Ultimate Fighter, which it was a 45 men's and 55, and the looking for a fight was coming back, and the Contender Series was coming back throughout the summer. So they're doing pretty quickly to fill up the divisions, and they were kind of just like hesitant and making me wait. And like I said, I can't wait at this point where I'm at, and I did wait for a while. You know, I just moved down. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to train full time and train like I have a fight, and hopefully something pops up or something can work itself out. But here we are. Like I said, 5 months later, this is a longer layoff than I wanted already, and I got to keep moving forward. And if the UFC, they want to take their time, that's fine. But I can't sit on ice and wait. I got to keep moving forward. And yeah, if I'm healthy, I can't, and young, I can't not be fighting. I got to make money too. So it's my job.
And one more thing, sort of on the UFC contract and sort of your tenure there. Do you feel like had you finished some of those fights, like maybe they were a bit more like fight of the night style fights, that the UFC would have been a little bit more eager, or at this point it doesn't really matter? I guess it's just you are where you are now and you'll sort of move forward.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's hard because I was like in the gym. I train differently. I fight differently, and then when I was getting in there, even those last few fights of my UFC deal, it's yeah, I would grind for the takedown. I wouldn't want to give an inch, and like you got to take risks in this game, which is a big thing I'm learning. And I'm changing up my style a bit more of showing more well-roundedness. It's like I feel like I could have outstruck a lot of those guys, but I just knew that I could out-grapple them, so I just went in there and did that. Which is promoters love brawlers. Like they love coaches' nightmares and promoters' dreams. Like that's why you see some of these guys who are getting fight of the night and like not very technical fights, but that's what the fans want to see. And they're going 1-2 or 1-3 in their first contract, and they're getting re-signed. And it's the name of the game. It's an entertainment business. So I mean, you can't beat them. You got to join them. And it's, as much as you want to say it's like a sport about winning, it is also an entertainment. You got to understand that. And that's why I'm excited about this next fight, because since that fight, I've been really being like, okay, let's fight more well-rounded and show more stuff. And that's what I've been focusing on 100% in the gym. I mean, I've shied away from my dominant, like, top game cage wrestling kind of style. It's always there. I still work it every week and every session and stuff like that. But I've just been working a lot more on the stuff that the UFC wants to see, and what the fans want to see and everything like that. And it's giving me time to grow. So I'm excited about it.
So what made Brave the leading candidate to sign with? And were there any other options on the table as far as other promotions?
Yeah, there was. I mean, I wasn't looking too far ahead of like, selling myself out to all these different promotions and like offering myself up kind of thing. It was more of who was reaching out to me through like management. Like it didn't go public for a while because I still was working with the UFC, but possibly getting back and working with them. But yeah, Brave is, I get along great with that whole team. I've been out there to corner Gary a few times, and like I got along with the matchmakers there, the social media guys, that whole like, Brave team. And I really liked it. And I like the idea of them being far away, like not stateside, not really competitors with the UFC, which potentially I could go back to. If not, I mean, the Brave they offered good money and they can keep me very busy, where the UFC are kind of sitting on whenever they can offer you a fight. Where Brave is like, okay, we have this fight here, this, and you can fight any one of them or whatever ones. So I can kind of like really plan my year on when I want to fight. Where the UFC, you got to be a big name to be able to pick when you fight. So I think that was a big jump on it. Made me want to go with them.
And I imagine that the money's pretty good too. I mean, that obviously is part of it as well. You're
for free.
Yeah, you got to look ahead to the future. Now the one interesting thing here is that you're still training at the PI, and I know there's certain things now you're limited to because you're not a UFC roster member. What exactly are you able to get access to, for those who might be wondering?
Yeah, I mean, like I got a great relationship with all the staff at the UFC PI. I mean, I've been there more times than I haven't since they opened last May, and I get along with everybody, but it's more so like they got to look at me as like a training partner for the UFC guys. There's practices run in the morning by our coaches, and obviously I can go to those, and there's a lot of guys who aren't in the UFC who are there as well, and it's just more so using their staff and like the free food and the strength and conditioning programming, like all the stuff they've got to invest into you. The recovery, like the physical therapists. But I mean, it's okay. It sucks a little bit after having all the perks to not. but it just shows you how valuable that PI is, and I think I can attest to it more than any other fighter because I'm a guy who's had it to not having it, where a lot of these guys either haven't had it or I've always had it. So yeah, but it's Vegas is my home for training and getting ready for fights and stuff like that, and the PI is still going to be a part of it. And yeah, like I said, I just get along with everybody there, and I mean, I'm not overusing it or anything like that anymore. I kind of stay away from it a few days of the week, and I'll go there for the practices, and that's about it.
Interesting. So what made you decide to make Vegas your new home? Because I know before you were just going to do some of your camps there, but it seems like Vegas is sort of your home right now. And I know you have a girlfriend as well back home. So how is
Yeah.
that dealing with everything?
Yeah, I mean that's the hardest part. If it wasn't for my girlfriend, I'd probably be actually like officially moved down here, with all my stuff and everything like that. But yeah, now I just come down. It's a cheap flight. It's a quick flight back home. So I mean, at any time I can fly home for the weekend, and I'm not missing too much training. Where out here, I like the weeks Monday to Friday. I'm out here training hard. Um, the coaching out here, I've got a lot of eyes and a lot of different coaches around that I've really connected with well. And extreme couture, like all the bodies, like it's just stuff you don't have back home or that I don't have. And for me to be able to evolve like the way I want to evolve and the speed I want to evolve at, and with my age, it makes sense to have like-minded people that are constantly pushing you. You got tough rounds every time, and you know it's it's just there's so many resources here in Vegas that it's definitely my new place for getting ready for fights and everything like that.
Yeah, and how's your relationship back home with, Revolution Fight Team? I'm sure they're supportive of it, but I know sometimes when people leave gyms, things can get a
Yeah.
little weird.
Oh yeah, they understand it though. It sucks obviously, but whenever I'm home, I'm always going in there and working with those guys. I miss them a lot. So I like I said, I've been balancing my time pretty well, and then when I go home on the weekends, I make sure I'll fly out on Monday evening and drop in on a Monday, and anytime I can get in there and work with those guys. But that's still my team too. I've kind of got two locations. I got at home it's Revolution with those guys, those coaches, and then when I'm out here, I've got a whole different group of bodies, team, coaches, everything like that. So, and they work well together. So.
Just got two more questions for you. How would you describe your relationship with the UFC right now? It seems like, from what I'm gathering, that the door's still open, things are relatively good. It's just they didn't have a spot for you right now.
Absolutely, yeah. It's not like it's sour or a lot of these other guys who aren't getting re-signed. They go off and banter and badmouth with all the bad things the UFC, the big bad UFC's ever done, and it's not the case for me. You got to be a realist if you're in this sport and realize it's generating money. It's what it is. I didn't make a big enough splash in my first three fights. I mean, I think me or four fights. I guess me being the away guy, I was doing them a lot of favors in that sense. Didn't really help my chances. If I would have waited, like I remember when I wanted to fight in New York against Botniak, they said you could wait for Edmonton, but I wanted to fight sooner. I didn't want that long layoff, and I jumped on to fight a local guy on the prelim side on a New York card, where if I was fought in Edmonton, I probably would have been higher up on the card. It would have been my market. When I went to fight Honey Jason in his backyard and, Fortaleza, Brazil, I fight Honey Jason, who's from Fortaleza, first fight of the night in Brazil. It's just things like that where I was the away guy. All the fights on the road didn't really help build my Canadian market, where if I would have had my fights all in Canada, there would have been a lot bigger of a demand for me, I think. And just looking at it more of a business aspect of it now, I made a little mistakes just being young and being like, I don't care, I'll fight these guys in their backyard and get to travel and all that kind of stuff. Volkanovski's another one, going out to Australia to fight an Australian, and it just didn't really benefit me to where the market I was trying to build, which was the Canadian side. But it's a lesson learned, and it's all good though. I mean, the big thing is I didn't go out there and I didn't bomb a bunch of fights and split two wins and losses and they cut me or whatever. I went out there, I went 3-1, better than 90% of the roster does on their first contract. They didn't re-sign. It's okay. The life goes on. I'm young. I'm gonna go out there, win another belt internationally, smash a few guys, and hey, maybe I'll be back in the UFC. Maybe I won't though, but it's not the be end all.
Do you have a fight lined up yet? Because I know that's part of it, is that you want to stay active.
Yeah. So far I can't really say too much about it, but it's in late August, and I don't know because they haven't announced the venue or.
Oh no, fair enough, fair enough. So late August is always what we need to hear.
25th is. Yeah, I'm about 9 weeks out, so I'll be ready to go. I'm excited about it, man. Full summer of training out here.
Well, Jeremy, great job, finding a new home. I think it's great. Going to be a nice fit for you going forward, and we'll definitely link up before your next fight. But in the meantime, man, where can people get a hold of you on social media? And if you got any sponsors or anyone to thank, no management. I know you're your own manager, but by all means, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a pleasure being on, and we'll definitely link up in International Fight Week. And yeah, just Instagram at Jeremy Kennedy 145, and yeah, Twitter Jeremy Kennedy WC. Those are both the two things I post on the most. Facebook's just under my name, but yeah, thanks a lot.
What's up, fight fans? If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to see even more interviews with your favorite UFC and Bellator fighters. We've also got coverage at events, including post-fight press conferences and media scrums. And if you like this video, check out the video to my right. It's worth your time.